So this will be my quick take on Francesca Hong's loss in Wisconsin, the governor's race. This is sad, this is tragic, and this is entirely expected. My main point is that I am not blaming the Democratic Party, their usual shenanigans, the way they consolidated behind the so called moderate centrist candidate David Crowley, whose campaign they resurrected from the dead. This guy had dropped out. He had suspended his campaign, but at the last minute, the establishment got together and they said, hey, you better come back. We'll get all the Democratic votes behind you. We've just got to defeat Hong. So, what did Wisconsin voters just say no to? This is important because this is not Zohran Mamdani we're talking about, much as I love Mamdani, but he's just a mayor. This is not Abu Al Sayed in Michigan, who will be a senator, probably. He'll be a senator with very little control over what one senator can do. Hong would be a governor in an important swing state. She could set an example for what other Democratic governors would be expected to do. So, Wisconsin voters said no to public funding of schools. That was her agenda after a long period of Republican governors dismantling the quality of life in Wisconsin. And now you've got Tom Evers, who is just a standard liberal. He can't do much, hasn't done much. Wisconsin voters said no to universal child care. Wisconsin voters, when given the opportunity, the Democratic Party voters had a clear opportunity. They said no to universal health care. Wisconsin Democratic voters said no to no data centers and all the devastation that data centers bring in their wake. Wisconsin Democratic voters said no to a livable wage. Wisconsin Democratic voters said no to an economic Bill of Rights. You don't hear much about that. This was like FDR's Bill of Rights. That's what she was proposing. Wisconsin Democratic voters chose to say no to paid leave. Wisconsin Democratic voters chose to say no to control over big ag. Wisconsin Democratic voters chose to say no, we don't want it. We don't want public transit. They said we don't want public anything. We're fine the way we are. So it would be easy to blame Francesca's old tweet, especially the one that we've been hearing about, what she said about Thanksgiving. And I thought she handled the question from mainstream media about the Thanksgiving tweet in a very sophisticated way. But regardless, I wouldn't blame though that past uh, those past tweets uh, specifically. Voters, Democratic voters, liberal voters, given half a reason. And you can't blame Evers and the Democratic establishment for wanting to take her out. Given half a reason, they will vote for what they have. Francesca was talking openly about fascism. The Democratic Party doesn't want to talk about fascism. What's most interesting and expected is Bernie Sanders. Sanders, the phony, the hypocrite, did not support Hong. Neither did AOC, but they did support Mamdani and they did support Abdul Al Sayed, which makes you wonder why. A governor in that kind of prominent position in that state would be a real danger to the Democratic Party establishment going forward, which Bernie Sanders ultimately supports. It is disgusting that Bernie Sanders and AOC distanced themselves from Hong, and the path was opened in a very clear repetition of what happened in 2020 when all of a sudden everybody consolidated behind Biden, another dead candidate who had to be resurrected after three losses in the first primary and caucus states. So that's where we are. Wisconsin gets a black governor. Congratulations, Wisconsin, getting the first black governor, just like we had the first black president. This guy, Crowley, I have no idea what his policies are. I read a little bit, I heard him a little bit. The same Democratic bullshit about access to healthcare and public private partnership and um, no wealth tax. He's very much against taxing the wealthy. That part I do know about. So completely acceptable to liberal Democratic voters. Um, I would blame black voters. You just got to bring up Clyburn from out of state and scare them. They have lost everything. They have nothing at this point under the Trump regime. What he's done to Medicare, what he plans to do to Social Security, and yet, how can we use this argument that they're scared about preserving what little they've got left? So, but it's so easy to sway them to this so-called electability argument, which is just a way of saying we don't want to change anything fundamentally. Workers are living in a hell. There is no way to survive, to make enough money, to have a decent quality of life. This candidate, Francesca Hong, is a Korean American. Her parents were immigrants. She went to the University of Wisconsin for a year and a half, dropped out, worked in the restaurant industry, became a chef, ran a restaurant, served people food, and she often talks about food, providing healthy food, food as a way to people's hearts. She has spent her short life, I think she's only 37, in unionizing, in mobilizing workers, just like Mamdani in New York with cab workers, uh, another state legislator. Um, so her life has been as a bona fide working class person, a single mom, a state legislator. Her entire policy agenda is something that someone like Bernie Sanders, exposed for the fraud he is once again, should have supported. But congratulations, Wisconsin. You got the possibly the first black governor. And as far as the electability argument is concerned, once again, he's not more electable. He is less electable, just as liberals have proved again and again. You give the people nothing, no policy, no excitement, no change, no real change. She has been questioning ICE on immigration, criminal justice, all of it. And as a governor, she could have done a lot. But Wisconsin said, no, no, thank you. We don't want any of those nice things. We're fine just the way we are. So, congratulations, Wisconsin. Good luck with what you've got coming. Good luck with Crowley. I'll stop there.